I've practiced this intro long enough. I'm getting tired of it. We're just going to do it live. How are y'all doing today? Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, thank you for stopping by. My name is Dylan, and today we're going to be taking a look at yet another one of my personal decks, which is going to be Tuvasa, the Sunlit. Tuvasa is I don't know how I managed to do so, but Tuvasa is a Storm, Stax, Voltron deck. When it gets working properly. Most of the time it's either Storm and Stax or Stax and Voltron or this, or sometimes it's usually a combination of the two, but if left unchecked, I can really go, it can really venture into all three. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So the theme of this deck, right? Well, what I call this deck is why you can't have nice things. And why you can't have nice things, it's simple, man. Like, this is, I mean, I give you a lot of stuff with braids, right? But sometimes players like to be mean. So now, I take that stuff away. Like, let me just give you a few examples, right? We got Path to Exile, Pongify, Rapid Hybridization, and Swords to Plowshare. You know, those are like the instant speed interactions. Tuvasa is an enchantress, though. Song of the Dryads, Grasp of Fate, Kasmina's Transmutation, Banishing Light, Kenrith's Transformation, Treachery, Frogify, Darksteel Mutation, and Imprisoned in the Moon all seem to get rid of creatures pretty well, in my opinion. They can also take whatever... Let's see, each exile up to one. Oh yeah, they can also take one of their best non-land permanents. So they have a Mana Reflection, they have I don't know, an Urza, maybe a Spore Frog, you know, guess what? It can become your Spore Frog. It can become exiled. It can become a regular frog because bad Spore Frog. You can't have nice things with this deck, okay? If you do have nice things, I want them. If you do have nice things, they're in exile. If you do have nice things, they are no longer nice things. There are things that you don't want, and that is why we do this deck the way it is. Real quick, though, I just want to say, this card in particular, Song of the Dryads, I love it. Why? Well, because it says enchant permanent. So, if you're playing someone and they have like 2 or 3 colors, right, and they can only get 1 or 2 of those, right, and they finally get that third one or that second one, you can just be like, no. This, of course, would only backfire if they're playing green, but, you know, I obviously haven't done that yet, but again, I can do so if I wanted to, because, I mean, if I have a Mogus player in my pod, I might as well be, if you can't beat him, join him, you know what I mean? I realized while I was recording this, I missed one of my removal spells. Well, not really removal, more like I'll take care of a problem spell, and that would be Lignify. Here, have a tree folk. So what happens if our opponents do manage to get nice things with this? Well, let's make sure that we do our best to punish them for doing so. So say someone wants to play a Soul Ring, well, let's turn it into a Command Sphere, or a Command Sphere that taps for double. But the Soul Ring sticks around, and, like, it can do stuff, right? Well, Energy Flux, it now has to acquire 2 of an upkeep charge, right? And Soul Ring pays for Soul Ring until Stony Silence hits the field and they can't activate its mana abilities. But what if their commander has an ETB where they can destroy the Energy Flux or the Aura of Silence? Well, you see, this Drannith Magistrate keeps them from casting their commander. Well, what if they want to search for an answer? Well, they can search the top 4 for an answer. Well, what about cracking a fetch land? Pay 2 and crack that fetch land. Oh, I'm sorry, do you want to attack me? Go ahead and pay for it. Let's see. Oh, you want to try and counter my stuff? I mean, you can, like, maybe sorcery speed counter it. Swing at me with an Annihilator? Good, cool, man. You're just swinging at me with an 11/11 without trample, and I don't gotta sacrifice anything. Nice. Let's see. You want to target my permanents? Well, I mean, you can pay an additional 2 to do so. Lastly, let's see, do you want me to blow your stuff up? You want to destroy some of my stuff? Well, you destroy a non-creature permanent of mine, I'll destroy a permanent of yours. Lastly, do you want me to have any more advantage in this game than I already do? So, you want to pay 4 for that soul ring? You want to pay an additional 1 for that soul ring? Can I have a treasure if you draw a card? This is not a nice deck, to say the least. Oh, and to top it all off, we can copy it. Now let's get into the utility of Tuvasa's ability to get +1/+1 for each enchantment we control. This is going to be more towards the Voltron side of things. Again, I don't know how I fit so many ideas into one, but, you know, it happened. Anyway, up first, we've got a Nyx Herald, you know. So long as Tuvasa is enchanted, which this being an enchantress deck, she probably will be, she gets, at the beginning of combat, she gets +1/+1 and gains trample until the end of turn. Eutropia gives her a +1/+1 counter and flying at the beginning of combat. Octopus Umbra makes her base power and toughness a 9/9. Angelic Gift just gives her flying, so just a little bit more evasion. Aqueous Form, unblockable. You get to scry on attack too. Enchanted Evening makes Tuvasa's power and toughness equal to the number of permanents on our board. While we're on that, Ancestral Mask with Enchanted Evening on the board as well beefs her up equal to the entire board. Because this reads, she gets +2/+2 for each other enchantment in play, and all permanents are enchantments in addition to their other types. Freaking ridiculous. Let's see, and we got Sage's Reverie. You draw a card for each aura attached to it, and then you get Tuvasa gets +1/+1 for each aura attached to her. Snake Umbra, +1/+1, and when she deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Felidar Umbra just gives her lifelink. Drake Umbra gives her +3/+3 in flying. Always Watching gives her an additional +2/+2 because of her ability in this one. And Bear Umbra gives her +2/+2 and really lets us utilize our second main phase with the attack trigger of letting us untap all lands we control. And while we're on it, one thing about the Umbras that I really like is the fact that they each provide protection for our commander. So because of this little thing called Totem Armor. So if Tuvasa is going to be destroyed, instead, you know, we destroy the Umbra we destroy one of these enchantments first, instead of her being destroyed, you know? Like, it takes the place. So, Tuvasa be murdered? No. Snake Umbra, go bye-bye. Tuvasa stays around, but like, maybe a board wipe, you're almost entirely unaffected. They're beautiful. And lastly, let's just get more into the Storm side of things. Real quick, when I say this deck is Storm, I don't mean like I'm going to be taking 30-minute turns. Like, this is like 3 different themes piled into one. However, if this deck gets going and we get going and it's not very heavily interacted with, we have the ability to like go off. First off, let's take a look at our ramp with stuff like Wild Growth, Overgrowth, and Mirari's Wake. Those are pretty good non-artifact ramp, especially with all the artifact hate we have. These are the only pieces of ramp, actually, but honestly, like, most of our stuff is low to the ground anyway. I could probably add a Nyx Bloom and Dryad of the Something Grove. I probably will at some point. Right now, these are what I'm sticking with. Starnheim, Courser, Starfield, Mystic, and Herald of the Pantheon all reduce our stuff, so that's always good. And then lastly, Sanctum Weaver. This isn't really ramp, but if left unchecked, this gives us mana of any color equal to the number of enchantments we control. So it's like Sarah's Sanctum, right? But it lets us get 1 mana of any color, which is just something, to say the least. Finally, let's take a look at the card draw side of things, because if you can't be Storm with an empty hand, you know what I mean? So we got stuff like Sidus, Satyr Enchanter, Eidolon of Blossoms, Viduran Enchantress, Mesa Enchantress, Enchantress's Presence, and Citizen Champion, all of which provide us some card draw for each enchantment we cast, which gives us more options to choose from as to which follow-up enchantments we want to cast and so on and so forth. And Destiny Spinner, while it doesn't really give us any card draw, it does make it to where that our creatures and enchantments can't be countered. And since we run very little instants and sorceries in here, as well as like no artifacts, this is going to be huge. There are 37 enchantments in this deck, and not being able to counter some of the things in here is freaking beautiful. It's like, that is perfect. Oh my gosh. So anyway, that's Tuvasa for y'all. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, we gotta end this off on a funny little story, you know, because apparently that's a good way to end these. So I played Tuvasa one time, right? And one of my friends decided to keep a 1-land hand because the cards he drew were just beautiful. They were just so good. How could he not, right? So he keeps the 1-lander. He's struggling to get anything on the battlefield, and finally he does get something. It was a Basilisk Collar, I believe, right? Right after that, right? I get to my turn. I didn't know what he'd cast. I just know he played something for 1 mana. I end up playing Energy Flux. And the one spell he played the entire game, he was unable to keep around. Oh, I didn't even know. I was just like, yeah, you all can pay for your soul rings. I like it. Hopefully this works for you. Hopefully you can appreciate this. I'm keeping Mr. 1-land hand in check over there, you know what I mean? But yeah, thank you for stopping by, and as always, y'all have a good one.